Welcome to another story made by Oracle One. The rain came down in a steady whisper against the windows of a cramped studio apartment on the east side of town. The air smelled faintly of burnt coffee and dust warmed by the glow of computer screens. Evan Clay leaned over his microphone, voice low and rhythmic as he recorded the latest episode of his podcast, Midnight Transmission. "They say when you listen closely," he murmured into the mic, "you can hear something whispering back from the static. Tonight, we'll talk about the lost signal of Station 43. His sentence was cut short as his monitor flickered. The waveform of his voice wavered, and a faint noise bled through his headphones, a high, sharp sound buried beneath the hiss of background static. It was almost like a scream. He froze, pulling one earcup off to check the silence of his apartment. The rain had stopped. The street below was empty. He leaned back to the mic. "Did you hear that?" he whispered instinctively, as if his unseen audience could answer. When he played the section back, the noise was there again, just after the words, "Station 43." It was unmistakable. A woman's scream, raw and short, echoing under the static like a cry swallowed by distance. Evan sat back in his chair, heart thumping. His podcast was a one-man operation, recorded late at night, always clean and edited carefully. There shouldn't have been any audio artifacts. He checked the input channel. The mic was fine. No open tabs, no secondary feed. "Weird," he muttered. "Glitch, maybe." But when he tried to isolate the sound in his editing software, something else happened. The program froze for a moment, then jumped backward 5 seconds, replaying the section on its own. The scream sounded louder this time, closer. Evan's hands hovered over the keyboard. The waveform pulsed erratically, like something alive. He shut the program down. For a while, he sat in silence, listening to the apartment settle. The old pipes creaked, the fridge hummed, and somewhere outside, a lone car hissed along wet asphalt. Finally, he shut down his equipment and went to bed. That night, he dreamed of a dark field filled with whispering voices. They came from radios buried in the ground, old transistor boxes half submerged in mud, whispering fragments of words and static. When he reached down to dig one up, a hand shot from the dirt and grabbed his wrist. He woke before dawn, sweating. The next morning, Evan brewed coffee and tried to shake the dream. He decided to re-record the episode from scratch. Maybe it would clear his head. But when he opened his project folder, the corrupted file was gone, and a new one had appeared in its place. It was labeled, dead_air.wave. He stared at it. He hadn't named any file that. He hovered his mouse over it, and his skin prickled. The timestamp was from 3:12 a.m., the same time he'd woken from the dream. Against his better judgment, he pressed play. Static filled the speakers. A minute passed, nothing but hiss and low-frequency hum. Then came a faint rhythm beneath it, like breathing. Shallow. Uneven. Then, the voice. "Evan," it whispered. He yanked off his headphones, pulse hammering. He told himself it was a prank. Maybe some online listener hacked his feed. But his show wasn't live. His connection wasn't even public during recordings. He tried to laugh it off, but unease crawled through him like cold water. Still, curiosity was stronger. He reopened the file and played it again, this time skipping forward. At 2 minutes, the voice returned, this time distorted and faintly echoing. "Find me," it said. "Please." His heart sank. The voice was unmistakably female, strained but human. He knew that tone. He'd heard it once before. Back in 2019, before Midnight Transmission had any following, Evan had covered a case about a local woman who'd vanished after attending a community radio event at a small rural station near the edge of town, Station 43. Her name was Marissa Hale. No trace had ever been found, except for her car, left by an access road near an old broadcasting tower. Station 43 had been shut down since the 80s, but rumors persisted. Transmissions bleeding through from nowhere, ghost voices in the static. The story had been one of his most popular episodes. Now, here was a voice saying, "Find me." He replayed the file, focusing on the background sound behind the plea. Between the static bursts, he could make out faint environmental noise, crickets, maybe a generator. The distinctive whine of radio interference. He opened an online spectrogram tool and loaded the file. The waveform displayed odd, vertical spikes, uneven but repeating. He adjusted the frequency bands, zooming in, and froze. Hidden within the noise were faint, blocky patterns that resembled Morse code. He began transcribing the dots and dashes. When he finished, it spelled, tower. Evans stared at the word, a chill creeping over him. He looked up the coordinates of the old Station 43 tower site. It was about an hour north, near the edge of Pine Hollow, long since abandoned. He told himself it was stupid. But the same voice inside him that had driven him to chase ghost stories and late-night mysteries whispered louder. What if it's real? By evening, he'd packed a flashlight, recorder, and his portable mic kit. He drove out under a bruised sky, headlights cutting through a mist that clung low to the ground. The road grew narrower as he neared Pine Hollow, the trees crowding close until the world felt strangled. Finally, he saw it. The skeletal frame of the radio tower, rising black against the twilight. The old station building sat at its base, windows boarded, its roof sagging. He parked beside the rusted gate and killed the engine. The silence pressed in immediately. Even the insects had gone quiet. He took out his flashlight and started up the path. The tower creaked faintly in the wind, its wires humming like taut strains. The station door was locked, but he found a loose panel around back and squeezed inside. The air smelled of mildew and rust. Dust motes danced in his flashlight beam. Old consoles lined the walls, tangled with cables. A toppled chair lay in the corner beside a rotted broadcast table. Evans' recorder clicked softly as he began documenting. Station 43 interior, he whispered into the mic. Evidence of structural decay. Possible contamination. Searching for any signs of. His flashlight flickered. He smacked it, and the beam steadied. Then came a sound from deeper in the building, a faint tap. Like fingers brushing metal. "Hello?" he called. No answer. He stepped toward the sound, shoes crunching glass. The hallway opened into a smaller room where a half-collapsed transmitter rack stood against the wall. A faint red light blinked at its base. Power. He crouched, brushing dust aside. A small backup generator sat humming faintly. Someone had wired it to an old broadcast unit. On its control panel, the same words appeared on a label strip: dead air. His pulse quickened. He reached toward the console. The moment his fingers touched a dial, the speakers screeched. Static exploded through the room. He staggered back as the noise deepened into a low, guttural distortion. Beneath it, a woman's voice screamed, "Help me." He fumbled to shut it off, but the switch wouldn't move. The static grew louder, pulsing like a heartbeat. The old monitors flickered to life, displaying jagged lines of green code that shifted across the screens. The scream warped into something else, a wet, gasping sound. Then silence. Evans' breath came fast. He tore the recorder from his bag and replayed the last few seconds of captured audio. The scream was there, crystal clear, and layered under it, a whisper, "Behind you." He turned. The hallway was empty. But the air had changed, it felt charged, vibrating faintly. His flashlight dimmed, sputtered, then went out completely. Panic crawled up his throat. He fumbled for his phone, but the screen refused to light. Then, from the dark, came the soft hiss of radio static. A voice followed. "You found me." He froze. It came from somewhere to his left. Slowly, he turned the flashlight back on. The beam trembled across the far wall, where something had been scrawled in what looked like rust or dried blood. "Find me, stay signal strong." His heart pounded as the radio hiss grew louder, building to a piercing shriek. The words on the wall seemed to pulse, wet and fresh. Then the sound cut off. In the sudden silence, Evan realized he could hear faint breathing. Not his. He backed toward the door. "I can help you," he said shakily. "Marissa, is that you?" The air thickened, pressing against his skin. The breathing stopped. Then, directly into his ear, a whisper, "No one leaves." Every instinct screamed to run. He bolted down the hall, crashing into debris, slamming through the broken door panel and stumbling out into the rain. The tower loomed above him, humming faintly. He didn't stop until he reached the car. When he looked back, the red light from the generator still blinked, pulsing through the cracks of the boarded windows, like a heartbeat. He drove home in near silence, the wipers smearing rain across the glass. The recorder sat on the seat beside him. At a stoplight, he glanced at it, and saw that the indicator was still flashing. Recording. He hadn't turned it on. He picked it up. "Evan," a voice whispered through the speaker. "You left me there." He dropped it, nearly swerving. When he got home, he threw the recorder into a drawer and locked it. Then he unplugged every piece of audio equipment, every mic, every headset. He sat in darkness until dawn. For 3 nights, he tried to ignore it. He didn't sleep much. On the 4th, he woke to a faint hiss coming from the kitchen. The drawer was open. The recorder was on the table, red light blinking. Static whispered softly through its speaker. He approached it slowly. The sound shifted, becoming a rhythmic pulse, almost a voice under breath. He leaned closer, and the words emerged. "The signal's strong now." His blood ran cold. The lights flickered. From the corner of the room came another voice, his own, from a previous recording. "Did you hear that?" Every speaker in the apartment crackled to life, replaying fragments of his old shows, overlapping, the urban legends, the haunted frequencies, his calm narration mixing with desperate pleas and static. "Welcome back to Midnight Transmission," one of his recorded voices said cheerfully. "Tonight, we go live." The power surged. All the lights went out. Evan grabbed the recorder and ran. Outside, the rain had stopped again. The air was dead still. He kept moving, heart hammering, until he reached his car. When he started the engine, the radio turned on automatically. Static filled the speakers. Then came her voice, Marissa's voice. "Don't run," she said softly. "It's broadcasting now." "You opened the channel." "No," he whispered. No, stay tuned," the voice said. "You're next." The engine died. The radio went silent. He sat trembling, unable to breathe, staring into the dark road ahead. Then, faintly, the car's clock radio lit up again. The frequency dialed itself to 104.3, the old station 43 frequency. His own voice came through, distorted. "They say when you listen closely, you can hear something whispering back from the static." The recording ended with a woman's laughter. When the police found the car 2 days later, it was parked by the same rusted gate of Station 43. The engine was cold. The keys were still in the ignition. The driver's seat was empty. Inside the car, the recorder was still running. It captured 47 minutes of dead air, followed by a faint voice saying, "Welcome back." Weeks later, a new episode of Midnight Transmission appeared online. It wasn't uploaded from Evan's account, but it bore his intro, his familiar cadence. "Good evening," the voice said. "Tonight's broadcast comes from somewhere between silence and static. Keep your radios tuned." Then came a single, distant scream. And silence. For more stories, like and subscribe.